Hey there, pilots! This is Dauntless Sam, and today we'll be looking at the history of the Nakajima KI-43 and its flight characteristics in War Thunder. The Nakajima KI-43 Hayabasha, translated as Peregrine Falcon, was a single-engine land-based tactical fighter used by the Imperial Japanese Army Air Force in World War II. The Army designation was Army Type 1 Fighter. The Allied reporting name was Oscar, but it was often called the Army Zero by American pilots for its side view resemblance to the Mitsubishi A6M0 that was flown by the Japanese Navy. Like the Japanese A6M0, the radial-engined KI-43 was light and easy to fly and became legendary for its combat performance in East Asia in the early years of the war. It could outmaneuver any opponent, but did not have the armor or self-sealing fuel tanks, and its armament was poor until its final version, which was produced as late as 1945. Allied pilots often reported that the nimble KI-43s were difficult targets but burned easily or broke apart with a few hits. In spite of its drawbacks, the KI-43 shot down more Allied aircraft than any other Japanese fighter, and almost all of the JAAF's aces achieved most of their kills in it. Total production amounted to 5,919 aircraft. Many of these were used during the last months of the war for kamikaze missions against the American fleet. The KI-43 was designed by Itokawa, who would later become famous as a pioneer of Japanese rocketry. The KI-43 prototype was produced in response to a December 1937 specification for a successor to the popular fixed-gear Nakajima KI-27. The specification called for a top speed of 500 kilometers an hour, a climb rate of 5,000 meters in 5 minutes, and a range of 800 kilometers. Maneuverability was to be at least as good of that of the KI-27. When first flown in early January 1939, the KI-43 prototype was a disappointment. Japanese test pilots complained that it was less maneuverable than the KI-27 and not much faster. In order to solve these problems, Nakajima produced a series of progressively modified prototypes through 1939 and 1940. These changes involved a major weight-saving program, a slimmer fuselage with the tail surfaces moved further aft, and a new canopy. Crucially, the 11th prototype introduced the unique butterfly maneuvering flaps, which dramatically improved performance in tight turns. The 13th prototype combined all of these changes, and tests of this aircraft resulted in an instruction for Nakajima to place the KI-43 into production. The KI-43 was initially produced in November of 1939, given the designation KI-43I. Deliveries from Nakajima's Oda factory commenced in February of 1941. In addition to outstanding maneuverability, the KI-43I had an impressive rate of climb due to its light weight. Power was provided by the Nakajima HA-25 engine, turning a two-bladed, two-position variable-pitched metal propeller. Top speed was 495 kilometers an hour at 4,000 meters. The KI-43 was equipped with two cowling machine guns in various configurations, with either two 7.7mm Type 89 machine guns, one 12.7mm HO-103 machine gun, and one 7.7mm gun, or two 12.7 HO-103 guns. The aircraft was given various sub-designations to reflect these differences. The configuration that appears to have been most prevalent at the outset of the war was the first configuration with two 7.7mm machine guns, while as the war progressed, the heavier combinations gained popularity, and the version with the heaviest armament was sometimes given the designation KI-43IC. The HO-103 was often loaded with explosive ammunition to increase target effect. Its penetrative effect against later Allied aircraft armor appears to have been marginal. Prototypes for the KI-43-2 flew in February 1942. The HA-25 engine was replaced by the more powerful Nakajima HA-115 engine, which was installed in a longer chord cowling. The new engine turned a three-bladed propeller. The wing structure, which had suffered failures in the KI-43-1, was strengthened and equipped with racks for drop tanks or bombs. The KI-43-2 was also fitted with 13mm armor plate for the pilot's head and back, and the aircraft's fuel tanks were coated in rubber to form a crude, self-sealing fuel tank. The pilot also enjoyed a slightly taller canopy and a reflector gun sight in place of the earlier telescopic gun sight. Nakajima commenced production of the KI-43-2 at its Oda factory in November of 1942. The KI-43 was the most widely used Army fighter. The first version, the KI-43-1, entered service in 1941, the KI-43-2 in December of 1942, the KI-43-2 Kai in June of 1943, and the KI-43-3A in summer of 1944. The aircraft fought in China, Burma, the Malay Peninsula, New Guinea, the Philippines, South Pacific Islands, and the Japanese home islands. Like the Zero, the KI-43 initially enjoyed air superiority in the skies of Malaya, Netherlands East Indies, Burma, and New Guinea. This was partly due to better performance of the Oscar, and partly due to the relatively small numbers of combat-ready Allied fighters. Mostly the Curtiss P-36 Hawk, Curtiss P-40, Brewster Buffalo, Hawker Hurricane, and Curtiss Wright CW-21 in Asia and the Pacific during the first months of the war. As the war progressed, however, the fighter suffered from the same weaknesses as the KI-27 and the A6M0, light armor and less than effective self-sealing fuel tanks, which caused high casualties in combat. Its armament of 2 machine guns also proved inadequate against the more heavily armored Allied aircraft. As newer Allied aircraft were introduced, such as the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, Lockheed P-38 Lightning, North American P-51 Mustang, Vought F-4U Corsair, the Grumman F-6F Hellcat, and late-model Supermarine Spitfire and Seafires, the Japanese were forced into a defensive war, and most aircraft were flown by inexperienced pilots. However, even near the end, the Oscar's excellent maneuverability could still gain advantage over rash Allied pilots. From October to December of 1944, 17 KI-43s were shot down in air combat. Their pilots claimed 7 C-47s, 5 B-24 Liberators, 2 Spitfires, 2 Beaufighters, 2 Mosquitoes, 2 F-4U Corsairs, 2 B-29 Superfortresses, 1 F-6F Hellcat, 1 P-38, and 1 B-25. Like most Japanese combat types, many KI-43s were at the end expended in kamikaze raids. The KI-43 also served in an air defense role over Formosa, Okinawa, and the Japanese home islands. The Yabashas were well liked in the JAAF because of the pleasant flight characteristics and excellent maneuverability, and almost all fighter aces claimed victories in the Yabasha in some part of their career. At the end of the war, most Yabasha units received Ki-84 fighters, but some units flew the Yabasha to the end of the war. In War Thunder, there is one variant of the Ki-43. It is a Rank 1, battle rating 1.7 light fighter. It has a maximum speed of 586 kilometers per hour, a turn time of 15.3 seconds, and a rate of climb of 30.2 meters per second. It is armed with 2 12.7mm HO-103 machine guns with 500 rounds, and can also be armed with either 2 50-kilogram bombs, 2 100-kilogram bombs, or 2 250-kilogram bombs. The Ki-43 is a very nimble fighter and can outturn most other monoplane fighters. As a trade-off, the aircraft is very lightly armored and can't take much of a beating. The Ki-43's heavier machine guns are very effective, though it's easy to run out of ammunition quickly. I hope that this information has proved helpful. If you liked the video, please do like the video. If you would like to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and if you think anyone else would be interested in this video, don't be afraid to share it. This is Dauntless Sam. Thanks for watching.